Hey Trailblazers and Tarmac Tacklers, welcome back to the Maximum Mileage Running Podcast. This is your one-stop shop for everything ultra, road and trail running.
And don't forget, we've got all your off-road adventures covered too.
And I'm your host, Nick Hancock, Head of Coaching here at Maximum Mileage, here to deliver pro advice, humour and inspiration for those of you tackling marathons and beyond.
And I'm Faye Johnson, your co-host. I am also a certified running coach, personal trainer and the resident mountain goat. Whether it's road running or ultra marathons, we've got the tips and tricks to get you through your training.
Exactly. Whether you are squeezing miles into a busy schedule or just dipping your toes into long distance running, we've got your back. So lace up, gear up and get ready for maximum mileage. Let's get into it. Hey Trailblazers and Tarmac Tacklers, welcome to the Maximum Mileage Running Podcast. This is your one-stop shop for everything ultra, road and trail running for busy people. I am your host, Nick Hancock, a certified USCA ultra running coach and UK athletics coach in running fitness. I am here to answer your questions and provide a little bit of humour and inspiration for those tackling marathons and beyond. So whether you're squeezing miles into a busy schedule or just dipping your toes into long distance running, I have got your back. Prepare for some laughs, learning and a few colourful words. So lace up, gear up and get ready for maximum mileage. Let's get into it. On this week's episode, I answer my athletes' questions. They put me on a hot seat once a month and they throw questions at me, sometimes ahead of time, sometimes on the spot. And we talk about everything to do with running. Enjoy. So, hello everybody. Thank you for joining the monthly coaching call. I'm going to start off with a joke. How do you annoy Lady Gaga? Poker face.
Hey.
Brilliant. If any of you have got Alexas, just ask Alexa some of her funny jokes. They're brilliant. Anyway, enough of that. So today's discussion was going to kind of mostly, and actually it's quite good that we've got Chris, Steve and Rachel on here because you're all doing marathons, to centre around the marathon piece because we are getting into the business end now. Joanna, please feel free to ask ultra related questions as we're not far away from UTS, are we?
Yeah.
Joanna's also doing, she's doing the 55k, but it's not exactly a park run. 55k with 2,000 meters or 3,000 meters elevation, isn't it? It's a lot.
Yeah.
I know it's a lot.
Best not to think about it.
It's up and down 4 million. So yeah, we're going to centre things around the marathon and some things to kind of bear in mind over the next few weeks, which I'll start off with that actually, because some of the questions I've had, Chris, you've asked some questions, Rach, you've asked some similar questions or a similar question around pacing strategy. I saw something from another coach actually today in Trail Running magazine and sort of made me think, particularly as we sort of get into this part of the training. So first of all, we are starting to think about, what paces are we running at? So, Steve, Chris, Rachel, you're all going to have in your plan, or you're even starting to have in your plans, specific paces now that we're going to start practicing running at. So by the time you get to race day, you should be very used to running at that pace, your target race pace. Alison's joining. Hi, Alison.
Hi.
Hi, your eyes.
Yeah, not too bad.
Bit snowy around here, isn't it?
Yeah.
Literally down the road from me. It is not great running weather. You were on the bike today, didn't you?
Turbo trainer.
Turbo, yeah. So the things it is obviously now important to start thinking about race day, but keep focusing on what's right in front of you as well. I've had a chat today with somebody who, I won't name them, but they'll probably watch this back and go, oh, he's fucking calling me out. But I have had a chat with somebody today who, you do start thinking about race day and what's going to happen on race day. And yes, that is important. We will talk about that sort of stuff, but don't forget about what's in front of you right now. Things like getting enough sleep, eating enough food, eating good enough quality food, hydrating, all of that kind of stuff it still remains absolutely key. And it's really important to do that and not get caught up in data and paces and stuff like that. Just focus on what's in front of you and don't let the odd bad run get to you either. It is something that does happen more around this sort of time in the training because, the miles have gone up. You feel like you're so close to race day, but you're not quite close enough. And I mean, social media is littered with people complaining about marathon training at the moment. If you see social media, it literally is just so many people complaining about it. It is hard. I say it all the time, like, 100 milers, mountainous races, etc. Nothing is as difficult as training for a marathon, a road marathon. It's the hardest distance, I think. It just takes a lot of concentration because there is so much running on similar terrain involved. Whereas, Joanna, you and I have got lots of trail running to do, and it's interesting, and you can mix your routes up, and we get to eat loads whilst we're actually running, real food, sandwiches and stuff like that, and you just don't have that with marathon training. So one of the other things that happens quite often in marathon training, not just because the weather is ridiculous at the moment, and for those of you who've got kids, it's just constant snotty bugs all over the place. But getting ill is quite common at this stage of marathon training, because of the time of year, but also because the mileage is generally quite high. That does put additional stress on the body, additional fatigue on the body, and that is when we are most susceptible to getting ill. So I'm not a nutritionist, but something I do make sure that I do during the final weeks of marathon training is really concentrate on making sure I'm getting enough vitamins. So I do supplement. I supplement anyway. I'm a bit of a supplement fiend, if I'm honest. But I do make sure I have a multivitamin, cod liver oil, omega-3s, that kind of stuff. And Joanna, this applies to you as well with ultra training. It's a good idea just to have a look at, am I getting enough nutrients, particularly that immunity boosting stuff like, turmeric and ginger and mushrooms and leafy green vegetables, plenty of all that sort of stuff as well as your hydration. But also, don't scrimp on. I mean, I had an entire bar. I don't know if any of you've seen it, but I love Biscoff. I love it. And they've started doing this Biscoff bar of chocolate. So it's basically Biscoff spread surrounded by chocolate. It's like 900 calories, and I just had the whole thing at lunchtime. So don't hold back. Obviously, don't go crazy because you want to turn up, all this good running you've done all these months, turn up fat on race day. You can't outrun a bad diet. Trust me, you can't. So don't deprive yourself of the good stuff as well. Oh, and there was one other thing. The other thing to start thinking about now as well is, if you're not already doing it, which I think everybody on this call is, but not only should you be practicing your fueling on your long runs, and Steve, you've commented how much of a game changer getting your fueling spot on has been for you, but also now start practicing running in exactly the same kit as what you're going to be running in on race day. That's another good thing to do as well. Just things like, guys, trust me, particularly if it's raining, you want to make sure that your nipples have got Vaseline or a plaster. I use spot plasters on my nips.
Yeah.
Might sound like a crazy, but that little thing, something as small as that, you forget to cover your nipples up on race day, or you wear a t-shirt that you've never worn before and it rubs. Trust me, it can totally derail your race. You can go from.
I tell you what, the shorts that you recommended, those trail shorts with the pockets at the top, they have been a game changer.
They are.
I could literally put the 6 gels on each side, then have my pouch in the middle at the front for the empties. It's brilliant.
Yeah, and space for your phone and probably.
Oh yeah, I'm not going to carry that on the day though.
Yeah, or probably your own hotel keys. I mean, some of you might have your phone, some of you might not. But things like hotel keys, car keys, that sort of stuff. All that sort of stuff. It is well worth practicing exactly what you're going to be running in on race day. And Joanna, this goes for you as well. So your long trail runs, put the entire mandatory kit list on you and start practicing in that. You don't want to get to race day having never used, never run with your poles or only run with your poles once or twice. Yeah, just sort of get really specific now. Specificity doesn't just mean practicing your marathon pacing, but also it means practicing, use the shoes, get the sock and shoe combo right. You don't want to wear a pair of socks that you've never worn with your shoes on race day. You want to get all of that stuff absolutely spot on. So by the time you get to race day, you know that the sock and shoe combo you've got is absolutely spot on. The pair of pants that you're wearing are not going to chafe you. You're wearing these spot plasters on your nipples, so you're not going to look like a murder scene running through London or wherever it is you're doing it. All of that sort of stuff. Even like getting your morning routine, your pre-race, pre-evening routine, like all of that sort of stuff. It really does matter to have a little think about all of that. And then for those of you particularly doing something like London, where you've got to go to what's the name of the expo centre?
The Excel.
The Excel, yeah. So you've got to go to the Excel and pick up your bib and race pack and everything. Trust me, from experience, when I went to Vancouver and I did the Vancouver Marathon, well, half marathon in the end, that's another story. The day before, I went to the expo, had a great day, wandering around the expo, talking to all the people, walking around all the stores, and then walking around Vancouver. By the end of the day, I'd done about 48,000 steps. And then the next morning, got to race day, and I was knackered. I was absolutely knackered. And particularly for people going to London, because it is, and Manchester as well, actually, because, you go into a different place and it's, let's go and see this, let's go and see that, let's do the touristy stuff. Do that the next day. Do that the day after the marathon if you can walk. I mean, actually, it's a good bit of active recovery. But yeah, the day of picking up your pack, especially if you're doing it the day before, just try not to do too much walking around, because that can really impact things as well.
I was going to ask Nick about that sort of meal the night before and getting that straight. So I've got to go up to Manchester, so I'll be going up the day before.
Yeah.
The trains look like a nightmare, so I've got to go via Leeds, I think. So I'm going to be sort of 6 hours on a train to get to Manchester, I think. And then I've got to find somewhere to eat out. How do I that's something that concerns me at the minute.
What do you normally on the night before a long run?
Lots of carbs, pizza or pasta.
Yeah, honestly, pizza is my go-to. And actually, Stephanie Howe, who is, I think she's won Western States a couple of times. She's also a nutritionist, and her go-to the night before a race is pizza. Carbs, fats, salt, brilliant. Calories, yeah. So
what kind of toppings are you talking about, though? Because I'm guessing like a spicy all meat pizza is probably not the way forward.
I tend to stay away from spicy stuff the day before the race. Yeah, that is one thing. Might help to jet propel you a little bit, but
right to the
Portaloo.
I need a Portaloo. Yeah, try staying away from spicy stuff, I guess. But yeah, it does belong on pizza. I like a Hawaiian pizza.
Yes.
Yes, I do like a pineapple pizza. So that's my go-to. But whatever your poison is. But so yeah, look, Manchester's got one of the best hospitality scenes in the UK. So get yourself to a Franco Manca. I think they do sourdough pizza dough. I'm ex-hospitality, that's why I know that. I think Franco Manca do sourdough, which is more superior because it's good for your gut as well.
Sounds good.
So yeah,
get out for those. I'm staying at Piccadilly, I think, so I'll be able to find one.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. Don't go to Curry Mile.
No.
What's it called? The Taj Mahal on Curry Mile. Brilliant curry, but I wouldn't do it the day before a marathon.
No. A friend at uni, we used to go to a curry house, and he used to get to the end of the meal, and he used to slap his money down and say, "Right, I've got 20 minutes," and he'd have to.
And then just on the subject of carb loading as well, you don't have to go mental. And certainly the day before a marathon, like you hear it in marathon circles all the time, the pasta party. Like whoever came up with that is ridiculous. Eating a kilo of pasta the day before a race is not going to fill your glycogen stores. You just don't get enough from a big bowl of pasta. You don't. And you're just adding loads and loads and loads of fiber in one massive sitting. You are going to need a massive shit the next day. And you might even need one in the middle of the race. It's gross, but as simple as that. So yeah, your carb loading, it should start around sort of 72 hours before the race. And you want to, you can even start a little bit before that, just incrementally, but it's those 3 days before the race that are the most important. And it's quite hard to get So the general guidelines are around 7 to 12 grams of carbs per kilo of lean mass. So I think I'm about 65 kilos lean body mass. That's, 650 grams of carbs is a lot, like a lot. I do it by eating the stuff I normally have, but I'll have, a bit of extra Cheerios in the morning, some extra potatoes, some extra rice at lunch. But then I'll top it up with strawberry Haribos and my go-to, Oreos, Biscoff, bars of chocolate. I'll sip on my Talk energy drink throughout the day as well. And don't be surprised on race day itself, if you weighed yourself, if you've done carb loading correctly, because not only are you adding around 700 grams of carbs in the day before the race, but you should be drinking double the amount in water as well. Because if you think carbohydrate, the carbohydrate molecule has two water molecules in it. So you should be drinking double the amount of water to be able to absorb all of that carbohydrate as well. So if you think about it, 650, 700 grams of carbs plus 1,500 mils of water as well that's been stored inside you. You could be talking about 2 to 2.5 kilos heavier than normal on race day. That's normal. If you've done carb loading right, that's obviously Joanna. You're a bit smaller than me. It won't be quite like that for you, but Chris, Steve, particularly, you should probably be thinking, crikey, that's heavier for race day if you've done carb loading right. Go too much into the realms of racing weight and stuff. I actually have a call tomorrow with a sports nutritionist to talk about racing weight. So if I get anything interesting from that, I'll let you know. But look, I definitely am not as lean as I probably could be, and I still ran a 2-minute PB on the weekend at half marathon distance. So is being skinny and lean that important? It's becoming evident, and it's becoming less important.
There's literally a thing in the BBC about that this morning, actually.
Is it?
I'll send it across to you. It's about the female runners and their being lean. So I'll send it across. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, that'd be good to read. I didn't know. I don't have the news apps anymore, so.
No, I don't either. But it just came up on my internet thing for some reason. I'll see if we can find it and send it across.
Yeah, cool. Have a quick look on there now. If you find it, send it across. That'll be interesting to look at. So, Chris, let's go to your questions. Both you and Rachel have both asked questions pretty much surrounding, race day tactics, race day strategies. Your question: what are my thoughts on pacing strategy for a half and marathon? So, two different scenarios. And the first one, half marathon. Me personally, and this is me personally, I'm able to run a half marathon at very close to my threshold pace, like 97, 98%, which is pretty high. Because if you think threshold, we normally talk about being able to run at threshold for around 50 to 60 minutes. So to be able to do that for an hour and sort of 17, I run at a fairly high level on a half marathon. So I tend to kind of go with a bit of a all-in strategy with half marathons, just run and then hang on for dear life for the last. Which is what I did on Sunday. I sort of got to about that 50-minute mark, looked down at my watch, and I was approaching 10 miles. I was like, Jesus Christ, that's pretty quick. I thought, well, just hang on for the last 3 and a bit miles. So that's sort of my strategy. That's also my strategy for 5Ks and 10Ks as well. Just go all in and hang in there for the last half of the race. It's going to be different for each of you. So, Chris, you on the weekend, we're talking about you. I'm quite interested in seeing how you get on at the half marathon. You're running really well. You did a massive 5K PB the other day. So, for you, we could have gone, well, let's practice what we think your marathon pace would be. But actually, I think it'd be really interesting to see what you do at half marathon. So, your strategy on the weekend should be start off at roughly marathon effort. So effort you feel like you could go out for hours. Do that for the first mile and then step it up a bit. Get at a point where you're starting to feel uncomfortable, but comfortable. Comfortably uncomfortable, I call it. Sorry, I need to be somewhere in 45 minutes. Thought about that. You want to be thinking at a pace that you're running at and you think, right, I'm uncomfortable. This is hurting and it's going to hurt, particularly for the last few miles, but you could sustain it. If that makes does that make sense?
Yeah.
And then for a marathon, because obviously you're going to be running for a lot longer, the first few miles, and you will have tapered as well. So you should turn up on race day. Well, you will turn up on race day feeling like $1 million. And one of the most common mistakes that people make is because they feel like $1 million, they go out way quicker than what their predicted sort of race pace is going to be, and then blow up halfway through and end up kind of jogging the rest of it. So that those first few miles, first sort of 6 to 10 miles, you will feel like, my God, this is so easy. I could be going loads faster, but don't. That is the quick way to ruin your race, because once you kind of get into a bit of a stride, which will take the first 6 to 10 miles, you'll then start to feel like, right, I've got another 16 miles of this, and you will start thinking, this is going to get tougher. But because you've held a little bit back, you should then be able to consistently get yourself up to that 20-mile mark. And if you've been fueling correctly the whole way through, that last 6 miles will still feel tough because it's a marathon, but it won't feel like you won't have to slow down, well, at all, really, but you won't have to slow down significantly.
Is that like the 10-10-10?
Yeah, you sent me that. I'd never heard of that 10-10-10.
So it's basically the first 10 you run about 5 to 6 seconds slower than your marathon pace. Your second 10, so you kind of break it into 2 chunks of 10. Your second 10, you're into your marathon pace. And then your last 10K, you're running that as a race, like a 10K race. I don't know if you've never seen it, then obviously isn't something that you've seen, but
no, I think I get the concept of it. I mean, they say the marathon starts at 20 miles, but that's because a lot of people's glycogen stores have run out because they haven't carb loaded properly and fueled properly. That's where that saying comes from.
Right.
And in elite circles, the marathon starts at 10K because that's when they really start racing, and you Kipchoge start pulling away, and that lead group starts to break up. But running your own race is really important. The great thing is that like Steve, we're talking about you potentially flipping that sub 3 mark. A great thing for you to do is to stay in range of that 3-hour pacer.
That's what I plan to do, is sort of take the thought out of it almost.
And that is a really good comment, actually. I was thinking about this earlier when I was thinking sort of through this, is by the time you get to race day, you don't want to be thinking too much about strategies. You don't want to be thinking too much about anything, really, because actually thinking, and I read a study on this, thinking too much actually burns calories and energy. So it does use a lot of energy. You want to be out there, and literally all you are thinking about doing is putting one foot in front of the other and keeping up with your pacing plan, essentially.
What paces do they have in London, just out of interest?
Oh, God, like every 5 minutes.
Oh, okay. And in every wave? Because that's the thing obviously I've never done London or any other marathon. It's how the start works,
Oh, yeah, the start. So I've never done London, but the start works. Everybody starts in different places.
Yeah.
Oh, and let me I'll tell you now, because they do have it on the website.
Because they have 3 different colours, and then I think they have waves within the colours or something like that.
Yeah.
And then I guess with that as well, and I suspect you'll probably go on to it, is
every 15 minutes they had last year.
15 minutes, okay.
That went from 3 hours all the way up to 7:30.
Okay, so 15 minutes.
Yeah, so there's paces right across the board.
Cool.
So by the time you get to race day, you'll have done. So this is where kind of my programming comes in, that all of these sessions that you're doing from start to finish, they all have a purpose. Every single session I give you has a purpose to get you to the goal that you've set. So all of those fast finishes, they will, your body will recognize, you may not be consciously thinking about it, but those fast finishes that you'll do and progression runs, all of that plays into race day, because your body will be used to it getting tough. All the marathon pace practice you're going to be doing. And by the time you actually get to race day, you've done all the different parts of the race throughout your training in different forms. So yeah, by the time you actually get to race day, there's very little thinking that you need to be doing. Okay, Chris, one of your second question was, on race day, what is your recommended approach if the worst happens in the race and you cramp up and that kind of thing? So you need to kind of, I guess, have some sort of backup plans. Hopefully, cramping up won't happen. You will probably start to hurt because it is a marathon. You know, all of the strength training you all do, that's going to help reduce the fatigue and everything. But a lot of it is mind and muscle. In fact, that's what I hate the bloke. David Goggins actually has quite a good saying. Your body will only perform at 60%. It's your mind that makes it go to 100. And we say this in ultras, Johannes. We say this in ultras as well. Is that the reason I don't give more than 20, 25 miles as your longest runs is A, because there isn't much need because of the breakdown of muscle and the additional fatigue and stuff. But a lot about ultra running is actually the mind. And it's the same in the marathon as well. When you feel like, oh my God, this is hurting, it's the mind that will say, if you want it enough, the mind will say, keep going. You're on plan. Don't slow down. I did it on Sunday. At mile 6, I needed a pee. It was so badly. But I was also starting to hurt a little bit because I was running hard. And my mind started playing games on me. And it was like, well, stop, have a pee. And that'll be an excuse for you to, have a rest a bit. But then I was like, well, I'm running really well. I could be on for a PB here. Just dig in. It's going to be over soon. And you'll have these sort of mind games play with yourself. I mean, obviously, if the worst happens and you really are cramping up, you get in spasms and things like that, then something's gone wrong somewhere. Have you missed a couple of gels? Did you stop fueling altogether? Did you, oh shit, I forgot to drink any water yesterday. That kind of stuff can sort of come into play. So if you do all of those things right in the build up, you should reduce the chance of things to go wrong during the race itself. That's where your carb loading, your hydration, all of the training, tapering properly, keeping yourself well throughout your training, sleeping enough, all of that sort of stuff is a real factor for what happens on race day. A lot of things that go wrong on race day is usually because something's gone wrong in the build-up, in the training. You mentioned, I see some people pushing, limping through, others stretching out with static stretches and phoning their mum.
I was kind of at Brighton because my wife Jo was doing Brighton last year, and I was taking photos and things of just various different bits of it, and it was almost carnage in the last couple of miles. People were dropping out all over the place. Yeah. I saw all of those.
Well, Brighton was my first road marathon, and at mile 20, I called Alison. I was pretty, and it was because I look back now, and it was because of totally experience. You get loads of people doing, marathons because they've signed up for charity, and all of that stuff is absolutely amazing. But people go into it with, marathon, I'm going to do it for charity, and not actually realise how fucking hard it is. You've all done the right thing and got a coach, and by the time you get there, you're going to be in great shape. But I remember phoning Alison because I was knackered. I think I had one gel. It was the year that Brighton, they ran out of water.
Oh, yeah.
It was boiling. It was supposed to be 14 degrees that day, and it was 26. We'd all gone from a freezing cold winter to bang, heat wave. And I cried for the whole last 6 miles. I really did. I got a great picture of me coming across the finish line. In pain, absolutely in pain. But, fast forward a few years later, Newport, which is my marathon PB, and it was a totally different story because I learned so much from that day, and a lot of it was because of the preparation was completely different to, it's still the same distance, still a warm day, so it was a lot faster and stuff, but it was that preparation and having a coach. But I think if you do get yourself in that position.
Yeah, that's a good one. I found that quite off-putting at Edinburgh last year. That last 6 miles, and there's a lot of people that had gone off too quickly. I was hurting, so I didn't have enough. I didn't fuel properly at all. I've had about 2 gels, and I really struggled for the last 6 miles. But as Chris said, loads of people that started puking up. There was one guy lying there, spark out, and I started finding it funny, all these people puking, and then I was sort of absolutely knackered, trying not to laugh. Got myself in the right state.
If you are fueling properly and you haven't gone out too hard at the start, everything that you've done in the build-up will pay you back on race day. That is the point of having a really good training block. And preparing right. The actual day itself, like, it is a bit of a cliche, but it is right. The day itself is a 26.2 mile victory lap. It is. You should go into it with a really clear mind, simple, don't go out too hard. You can remember that, and to remember to fuel and sip on water from the aid stations when you need it. You should have an absolutely cracking race, because everything that you've done in training, like that muscle memory thing, that is real. All of the things you've been doing in training will come into play on race day.
Yeah, I have a question about that, and it's not really related to marathon, half marathon distance, but it's something that, because I saw you mentioned, I think Chris asked you, and you mentioned that you don't recommend for marathon and half marathon wearing a hydration vest. Obviously for ultra it's a different thing, but I have this constant anxiety on the back of my mind that I'm going to run out of water. So I was looking at Pirin, and I'm really in a dilemma about because there are a lot of stations and they require you only to carry, I think, 2 flasks of 500 ml.
1,000 mils, yeah.
And that should be enough. But I'm really considering getting a bladder for the vest. And it's a lot of extra weight. But again, I'm just always, even on my short runs around home, I don't know why, I don't even drink that much, but it's like a constant fear how I'm going to run out of water and I'm going to have a cramp and I'm not going to make it to the aid station or something. So I always carry way too much, never drink it. So yeah.
It's like Chris. Chris is he runs, you wear hydration vests for parkrun, don't you?
My PB was the first time that I didn't have it, just because the zipper knackered so badly. But I still had a 500 ml bottle with me.
So did you?
I did, and I drank most of it. But yeah, for me, it's kind of like I get a dry throat and I start dry heaving and stuff. So I'm really, if I don't have the ability to kind of sip at will, that's a real anxiety. And I probably will wear one to the marathon. I don't know.
Dear. No, honestly, like at London, I think it's a drink station every 3 miles. Like you're not gonna run out of water, and it's all.
Can I ask?
You can easily carry. Go on, Alison.
Having to stop at a drink station to drink water, I'm just a bit worried about it sort of taking time out of the final, your timing.
Don't stop running. Like literally, you eye up the cup or probably the bottle. I think Manchester is, what's the water brand? Anyway, it's bottled water. Eye up the person holding the thing out, because you're going to have loads of volunteers all holding the thing out. You make eye contact with them and you just grab it on the run. Do not stop.
Okay.
Don't stop. And you haven't got any races before, have you? Before
2 tunnels Sunday.
Okay, great. Yes, you have. Yes. So,
they've got cups of water at the stations.
But even if you don't sip from the cup, and if you do, grab it, pinch the end of it, and sort of use it as a spout. Don't try sipping the whole thing, because it'll just go in.
Yeah.
And little sips. But practice it on Sunday. Eye up the volunteer, make eye contact with them. They'll honestly, they're just as keen for you to get the cup as you are to get it, and grab it on the run. Just have a go a couple of times this week, even if you don't drink any. Just practice the grab.
I'm just reminded of the pint glass I had a couple of months ago on the treadmill. That did not end well.
Alison, have a look. Sorry, Joanna, I will answer your question. Alison, go on YouTube and Google and search for Eliud Kipchoge Waterman.
Okay.
He is unreal, that bloke. You'll see Eliud Kipchoge grabbing his bottle and running at 4:30 mile pace. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
He doesn't break a stride. So have a look.
Okay.
See. That's
not the guy knocking every other bottle off and just grabbing the last one.
Oh yeah, and that guy, he got disqualified, didn't he? I think he got banned actually. So Joanna, I don't personally. I mean, this is where we sort of get into realms of personal preference. I don't like bladders. They are just too heavy. You've already got enough stuff in your back as it is. Having the bottles on the front counterweights what you've got in the back. So, and when you get to like UTS, it's an event on the world stage. It is going to be so well organized that you're not going to run out of anything. You're just not.
Okay.
So I don't think you need to worry about not having enough fluid. You should have plenty of opportunity to fill up at the aid stations and then have enough in between the aid stations. I don't think you need to worry about that at all. I'm doing 100 miles and I'm only taking 2 soft flasks. And Paul Richardson, who I coach, is crewing me. He lives in Blaenau Festiniog, so he's crewing me. But yeah, no, you won't need that. You won't need to worry about that at all. But it's down to personal preference. And if you are going to go with a bladder, buy one now and practice with it now, because it will be something that you'll just need to get used to.
Yeah, I think I just need to get over it because I don't want to carry the extra weight. And the thing is, I always have water left over. I don't drink that much. It's just weird anxiety about running out and being thirsty out on the trails.
Yeah, don't worry about that. And you should have a soft flask, a soft cup as well, a speed cup. If you haven't got one, get one. I think it's on the mandatory kit list anyway. You get yourself a soft cup. And what you can do is when you get to the aid station, make sure your bottles are full, but also have a quick cup of something. I mean, Christ, you might even want a cup of coffee halfway through the race. I know I'll be having one. So you'll have enough on you and the opportunity to have a sip. Coca-Cola is the ultra runners champagne as well. So so you want to do that as well.
Actually, I discovered Coca-Cola on my last marathon, kind of like about 2/3 of the way through. I just started grabbing a full fat Coke just instinctively. It was amazing.
Yeah, well, caffeine, sugar. I don't drink it at all normally, but yeah, on an ultra, it's amazing. It is like literally like ultra runner champagne, trail runner champagne. I wouldn't have it in a road marathon. So for me, fueling a road marathon is 100% gels and sips of water from the drink station.
At what point do you have your caffeine gel in the kind of marathon?
That's a great question. So leave caffeine to one of your last gels. I had my caffeine at 20 miles pretty much bang on.
Okay.
But what the caffeine does is it extends the time to exhaustion, and it will give you that little kick that you need. And particularly something like a Torque caffeine gel. The caramel latte flavor is the only caffeinated gel in the world that actually uses real coffee. And it's pretty punchy. It's like, I think it might be like 80, maybe 185 milligrams of caffeine in it, which is quite a lot.
That's a lot, yeah.
It's got quite a kick. It might be 85 or 185. I can't remember, but it's quite a lot. And it does help. It does help. Yeah, leave it towards the end. If you have caffeine too early, it'll wear out.
Yeah.
So yeah, I wouldn't have it too early. Cool. Last question, which Alison has just texted me. Thank you, Alison.
That might be more kind of, send me later, Nick.
No, I did answer this earlier actually. So,
I know, and I've forgotten.
That's all right.
Yeah, I think it was more towards a marathon, wasn't it? The quantities.
Okay, so sorry.
I'm just thinking about my Sunday half.
Similar principle for a half marathon. 72 hours before. I mean, me personally, I make sure that the 48 hours before, I don't go nuts. I'll just add in kind of sugary stuff into my normal diet for a half marathon. But then again, I am running the whole thing in under 90 minutes.
Mm.
I mean, you're not going to be far off that. So you don't need to go nuts carb loading for so like Friday, feel free to just kind of start adding some extra carbs into your diet, but you don't need to go bonkers with it.
Okay. Do you know what's really good? What I found is really good. For 1st of March being St. David's Day, I made Welsh cakes, and they were brilliant.
Yeah.
Geraint Thomas swears by them, doesn't he?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's got plenty of sugar in it. So yeah.
Butter, flour.
Maybe spread some Nutella on top of one of them, loads of jam. There you go. Rachel.
Hello. Sorry, my dog was trying to play tug with me. I guess you could hear that in the background. Yeah, just a very quick one in relation to weighing up, keeping on pace in the marathon to weaving. So obviously weaving is going to add distance, but if you're breaking your pace that you're comfortable at, that whole not stopping starting, but that slowing, speeding up. What's your thoughts on that?
So it's inevitable a little bit in a massive event like London, and the year just gone, they just mixed everybody. So like you had 3-hour marathon runners in with 5-hour marathon runners, and there was a little bit of weaving in and out of people at the start. Like my advice is, with any race really, is start as high up the corral as you possibly can. And you know what? It's a little bit selfish, but if people are having to overtake you, that's just the way it is. But I think Manchester should be very kind of, 3 hours or quicker. Even it should be like every 10 minutes. I think Newport there was a 3 hour, 3:10, 3:20, and it kind of went back from there. But yeah, try and do as little weaving in and out as you possibly can, because it does add to your race distance. And the other thing to do on the point of race distance is the way they measure the course is they measure it from corner to corner. So for those of you who know Formula One, where you talk about the racing line, and what the cars will do is they'll kind of go out to the far side of the track and then clip the apex and go to the far side of the other side of the track. Don't do that when you're running. So you want to be, and I was doing this on Sunday actually, when you turn the corner, try and run in as straight a line as you possibly can from corner to corner. I did put something on the Facebook group about this a little while ago. I wonder if I can find it. I put a diagram on there.
Yeah, that's definitely on there.
Yes. Here it is. I'll put it in the chat on here now, so you can all click on the link and go away with it and have a look. This is how they measure that's how they measure the courses. So at London, especially London, you should have a blue line on the floor. Stay as close to the blue line as possible.
Okay.
There's actually a really good clip of Eliud Kipchoge telling a fellow marathon runner, I think it was his rookie marathon, and he was running with Eliud, and Eliud was telling him to get on the blue line because he kept going across the track. Oh, it was an unbelievable moment in sport, like greatest of all time. He won the race, but he was coaching another runner whilst he's about to win a marathon. I think it might have been London, actually. Yeah, it was unbelievable. Hope that all helps. Any further questions? You obviously all know where I am. Thank you all for coming again, and I will speak to you all soon. Any further questions before we go?
When are we meeting up next?
Yeah, I'm working on it. I'm thinking a trail something or other. Yeah, I don't know where yet, but I'm thinking of something. Somewhere in the middle, because Cambridge is far, man. It's really far from everything. Like all of us there were like, yeah, wherever we came from, it was 3 hours. Didn't matter where you were from, 3 hours. I'll organise something.
Bro, thank you very much for your time.
Cheers all.
Thanks, Nick.
See you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Bye.
Cheers, Nick. See you. Bye.
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 And that's another lap done on the Maximum Mileage Running podcast. Thank you for joining me and my athletes and my guests on this wild ride through the world of ultra, road and trail running. And remember, whether it's a mountain trail or the local road, every mile you conquer makes you stronger. Keep pushing, keep laughing, and of course, keep swearing when that hill just seems a little too steep. If you enjoyed today's journey, don't forget to subscribe and leave me a nice review, please. Your feedback does help me go that extra mile. Until next time, this is your host, Nick Hancock, reminding you to make every mile count. Run long, run strong, and run with maximum mileage. Catch you on the next run. And that's another lap done on the Maximum Mileage Running podcast. Thank you for joining me and my athletes and my guests on this wild ride through the world of ultra, road and trail running. And remember, whether it's a mountain trail or the local road, every mile you conquer makes you stronger. Keep pushing, keep laughing, and of course, keep swearing when that hill just seems a little too steep. If you enjoyed today's journey, don't forget to subscribe and leave me a nice review, please. Your feedback does help me go that extra mile. Until next time, this is your host, Nick Hancock, reminding you to make every mile count. Run long, run strong, and run with maximum mileage. Catch you on the next run.